As Bhishma lay on his bed of arrows, awaiting his final breath, he was visited by many who wished to pay their respects to the great warrior. Among them was Draupadi, who had once looked up to Bhishma as a father figure, a pillar of righteousness, and a protector of Dharma. But as she approached him now, her eyes were filled with a mixture of sorrow and bitterness. Draupadi stood beside him, her voice trembling with the weight of her words. Bhishma Pitamaha, she began, I once held you in the highest regard. I saw in you a beacon of Dharma, a man who would stand against any injustice. But on that dreadful day, when I was humiliated before the entire court, where were you? I was dragged by my hair, my dignity stripped from me, and you remained silent. You, who could have saved me, who should have saved me, chose not to act. What kind of man speaks of Dharma and yet turns a blind eye to such a sin? Her voice cracked, and she continued, I trusted you, Pitamaha. I saw you as a father, but in my moment of greatest need, you did nothing. How could you? Bhishma, his body racked with pain yet his mind as sharp as ever, listened to Draupadi's words. He closed his eyes, deeply pained not only by his wounds but by the truth in her accusations. He knew this day would come, and he had no defense, only the bitter truth to offer. He opened his eyes and looked at Draupadi with a heavy heart. Draupadi, he began, his voice weak but clear, I understand your anger, and it is justified. I failed you on that day, and it is a failure that I will carry with me into the next life. But know this, my silence was not born out of cowardice, nor did I forsake Dharma willingly. The truth is, I was bound by my duty to the throne, by my loyalty to Hastinapura. I lived under their roof, I ate their food, and in doing so, I became a prisoner of my own oath. My loyalty to the throne clouded my judgment, and for that, I am truly sorry. He paused, his voice faltering with emotion. Draupadi, I was torn between the Dharma I had sworn to uphold and the loyalty to those who fed and sheltered me. I should have risen above that conflict, but I did not. I was weak, and I let that weakness dictate my actions, or rather, my inaction. The weight of that sin is mine alone to bear. Tears welled up in Draupadi's eyes as she listened to Bhishma's words. She saw the regret and sorrow etched into his face, the pain of a man who had lived too long and seen too much. She realized that his silence on that fateful day was as much a burden on him as it was on her. In that moment, she found it in her heart to forgive him, for she knew that even the greatest of men could falter under the weight of their own choices. With a heavy sigh, Draupadi said, Pitamaha, I may never fully understand your reasons, but I see now the remorse in your heart. May you find peace in the next life, and may the burden of this sin be lifted from your soul. Bhishma nodded, grateful for her words, though he knew that the path to his redemption would be long and uncertain. As Draupadi turned to leave, he whispered a final prayer, hoping that in the end, his soul would find forgiveness. And so, Draupadi walked away, leaving Bhishma to his final thoughts, both of them forever changed by the pain of that one day. And the great epic of the Mahabharata, Bhishma, a revered warrior, found himself on the wrong side of the war. Bound by a vow to protect the throne of Hastinapura, he fought for the Kauravas, even though he knew in his heart that their cause was unjust. Bhishma's loyalty to his oath kept him from standing up for righteousness, and he was torn between his duty and his conscience. Despite his wisdom and strength, he fought against those who were on the side of truth, justice, and Dharma. This story teaches us a profound lesson. Even the greatest among us can find ourselves on the wrong side of the battle when we ignore the voice of our conscience. It reminds us that true righteousness lies not in blind loyalty or duty, but in standing up for what is just and moral. When faced with a choice, we must have the courage to align ourselves with righteousness, even if it means breaking away from long-held beliefs or bonds. To fight for what is right, we must listen to our hearts and choose the path of truth, for that is where true honor and virtue lie.